Hello and welcome to Between the Sheets with me, James Max. And I'm joined today by Talk Radio's very own Mark Dolan. Mark, thank you very much indeed for joining me.
James, it's a pleasure. So much to sink our teeth into. Where do we start?
Well, there's a lot to sink our teeth into, and customarily, people with a newspaper review, they'll concentrate on the front pages. Can I tell you something? Nobody cares. This is about going in between the sheets, picking up the stuff that we're so blanketed by one subject.
I know that there's lots of stuff happening, COVID and all the rest of it, but actually today there's a broad spread, and I've got a really big culture war story for you if you're interested.
Excellent. Let's start with the culture war story, and then I need to ask you a couple of questions about people who are very, very wealthy. Let's start with culture wars.
Well, here we go again with another company that has got itself in hot water by trying to be woke and virtue signalling. This time it's the smoothie drinks manufacturer Innocent, who have had a row because on Twitter they followed a 76-year-old retired blogger, except that now the company is being described as discriminatory because she's made remarks about the trans community. Her direct quote about the trans community is as follows: "In life or death, trans women are not women." Now that's obviously quite a contentious statement, but I don't think it's enough for Innocent to completely drop this woman like a hot coal.
But don't you think that that's what's happening? That as soon as somebody says something that they don't like, and I will not profess to be an expert in that particular subject, and as soon as, if my eyes could swivel, they would definitely, as soon as something woke happens, they would just swivel round the back of my head like an old-fashioned 1970s action man, you know, one side to the other, and it's like, oh my God, stop already. This is a nonsense. Because there is a huge education process to go through. And I think when you hear the story of somebody who is trans and the journey that they've gone through, then you can begin to understand the discrimination that's there.
Sure.
What I struggle with is that we have to use the right terminology in order to make sure that no one's offended. I would much rather people just understood what the issues are and that some people are different.
Well, definitely. And I just don't care what companies think about trans issues or sexual orientation or immigration or Boris Johnson or Brexit or COVID-19.
But isn't that because the companies are now being controlled by their PR and their spin doctors?
Yes.
The CEO is too afraid to say anything at all.
Correct.
And in fact, what you've got to do is look at their actions and not their words. Companies get themselves in a terrible mess. It's a terrible mess. And look, in the newspapers today, you will see that there is not a single black CEO of a major company listed on the stock exchange in the UK at the moment. That is far worse than any of the nonsense that goes on behind the scenes or in front of the cameras.
Well, definitely. We saw this when Ben & Jerry's, the ice cream company, got in hot water with some of their messaging about immigration. And again, it's like what they were saying might be perfectly valid, but I don't buy their ice cream in order to be lectured on the politics of international migration.
See, I get more concerned about the differential pricing that takes place of their ice cream than elsewhere.
Tell me, what is differential pricing?
So differential pricing is when you go into a supermarket, and some of them have really been rinsing it as a result of the one story in town. You'll go in and that tub of ice cream might cost £5, £5.50, £6 for a single tub. In order that sometimes they might do an offer where you get two for £6.
Right.
Fine, but you go elsewhere, there are some shops selling it two for £5 and a 10% discount. You've got to shop around. That's a huge pricing differential.
Surely a man of your means doesn't have to worry about these mere trifles. I mean, you just send your
Look
assistant
after the pennies.
to buy the ice cream.
I do the shopping
your
myself.
lackey.
No, I do the shopping myself and I find the deals. Now, talking of deals and talking of money, how much do you think Richard Branson is currently worth? And why is he in the news?
I believe he's a billionaire. And so let's pluck a figure out of the air. $2.5 billion.
Incorrect. You'll be pleased to hear that Branson's fortune, according to the Times, has been blasted to a new height by amateur investors. So these are the people off Reddit and all the other forums. They've bought into his various different companies. $7.8 billion is what he's worth, according to the Bloomberg Billionaires Index.
How surprising.
How cheery is that?
Well, I know, and how unusual for a billionaire to make money during this pandemic, you know.
But they have.
Stop the press. Who knew?
Who knew? But they have. And this is part of the issue that I think we're going to see. This is where the story's going to move to, which is who did make money? How did they make money? And at what human and economic cost did they make money?
Well, definitely, and it's very creditable that the supermarket businesses mostly signed up to return furlough money because, and
Finally.
also, well, it did take a while, didn't it? But they have done brilliantly out of the pandemic, and they've recognised that by handing any state support money back. But we've got to have a look at these billionaires. The problem you've got, though, and you know this from your expertise in the world of business, is how do you actually get money out of these billionaires? They've got the best accountants, the best lawyers, and they stick their money in places that are tax-free havens.
Let's move over to a story that I know you want to talk about. Oh, let's continue with the gazillionaires. How does The Guardian deal with your friend and mine, Jeff, as I pronounce it, Bezos?
Well, indeed. Now, Jeff Bezos to resign as chief executive of Amazon, founded the company in 1994. He's stepping down after the company recorded $100 billion in sales in 3 months of 2020. So there's another business that's done well out of the pandemic, clearly. And my headline is, look, this guy is very successful. What a career. He deserves everything he gets. I mean, yes, I'd like him to pay his fair share of tax, but this is the guy that started his business in his garage. I mean, there is a photograph of him at home with a pile of books by himself, sticking these, latest whatever.
I mean, I love the story.
paperbacks.
I dislike what they're doing to retailers and retail up and down the country. Not so much because I don't want them to exist, because actually I think they really have revolutionised in some ways. But my biggest problem with their business model is it takes advantage, again, of the tax system. That's why they're doing so well, as opposed to, here's a really good idea. We've actually cluttered our streets with a whole load of cardboard. We've got a cardboard shortage, as you'll see in the papers today. We've got a whole load of expense. We've got tax which is not being paid because they're selling it through some Luxembourg company or other. And we've got lots of workers who are just working in sheds, as opposed to, this face-to-face thing, which I don't know about you, I love a shop.
100%. And hopefully one of the positive legacies of the pandemic will be localism, because people, to a greater extent, will be working from home. That means that if they do decide to have a lunch hour, they won't be doing it in central London or central Manchester or Liverpool. They'll be doing it nearby to where they live. And that's fantastic news. So I think you will see a bit of a golden era for localism in the high street. And I'm hoping that post-pandemic, we will see in Britain a generation of Jeff Bezoses, because so many people are now stuck at home. A lot of people, sadly, will emerge from this pandemic without a job. And I'm already reading a lot of stories of people saying, I've tried getting a job, there are no jobs out there, so I've got a laptop, I've got broadband connection, I'll create a business from my kitchen table.
And I'm really hoping that people do, and I'm really hoping that the government recognise that that is one of our ways out. Make sure you incentivise it. But can I just ask you something? If I had to ask you to describe what appears in the paper here, this is going to be a new headquarters building for Amazon, and it's unveiled. It's a 350-foot tower. It's called the Helix.
Okay.
What does that look like?
Well, it's not a roller coaster. What do you call that more traditional thing that you go down? Helter-skelter.
Oh, right. I was thinking a turd. I mean, seriously.
Right.
It
Says
looks
a lot
like the
about us.
turd emoji that you will find on a mobile phone. I mean, what are
It
they
does.
thinking?
Can I be honest with you? That is a sort of
It's
poo.
a massive, great big...
It's a poo that Gillian McKeith would be proud of.
I want to take you to the Telegraph, and I actually want to take you to the Telegraph business section, because there's a lovely picture of he who used to be the Chancellor.
Oh,
So
Mr.
George Osborne is there, and there's a little bit of discussion in there, and in many of the newspapers. And the look, so they've taken us inside this company called Roby Warshaw.
Yes.
What do you make of George Osborne and his incredible ability to secure the most fantastic jobs?
Well, that's right. We know that John Prescott was 2 Jags. George Osborne is 10 jobs.
Yes.
And counting. Of
But he's
course-
getting rid of some of them.
Well, yes, he's relinquishing his role at the Evening Standard. He's
Yes.
stepped down as editor, but he was editor-in-chief or some other sort of grand title. So he's getting out of that. Lots of other, I think BlackRock investment is.
Yes, so
he was a
BlackRock, he
partner
was there.
or-
How much did he get paid for doing 1 day a week?
I think it was 600 grand a year.
It's £650,000 a year.
Amazing.
Beautiful.
Nice money, nice work if you can get it. But he's giving it all up for one job. And what I found amazing reading this story is that the company, I think it's turned over something like, profits of over 200 million since they were founded about 7 years ago. They have 13 employees.
They do indeed. So Sir Simon Roby used to be, ultimately, he was my boss.
Right.
because he was at Morgan Stanley at the same time I was there. He is an incredible operator, by the way, and his sort of chief lieutenant, if you like, Philip Apostolides, also was at Morgan Stanley. Brilliantly intelligent. Incredible contacts. And I think what people don't quite understand is, why would you take somebody who was a chancellor, who's been a newspaper editor, what can he do? He can open doors.
Right.
And he can open doors of government, which is sometimes difficult to navigate. And annoying as it is, George Osborne is incredibly well placed to do this. And all you have to do is look at the litany of former politicians who are opening doors for these organisations. And also, if, for example, they wanted to have a client event, if George Osborne is speaking, a lot of people will turn up.
Yeah.
But let's go back to The Guardian, because it's something that maybe a lot of people who might be watching wouldn't ever go close to. I myself tend to wash my hands after I've come into contact with it. That having been said, I'm fascinated by this strategy for Labour to win back the Red Wall.
Oh, yes.
What do you make? Because they've got a huge double-page spread in here, all about the different things that Captain Hindsight, you're my friend, Sir Keir Starmer, what he's got to do in order to win back. And if this strategy is true, they have rather missed the point.
Well, they have. So the idea of this report, which has been leaked, is that Labour is going to discover patriotism. It's going to wave the flag, and that is clearly a factor behind Brexit, was a sense of patriotism. A lot of people in this country, those North Wall constituencies, who did feel that they wanted to get their country back, and Labour missed that. Of course, Keir Starmer was one of the architects of Labour's Brexit policy. He was shadow Brexit secretary, and the whole idea of his position was a second referendum. Which
He's
is
a
an
proper
insult.
chameleon, that one.
Well, he completely messed up. You know, it was a poor judgment. It wasn't only Jeremy Corbyn that lost the election. Keir Starmer lost it too.
Oh, they all did.
And the problem you've got now with this sudden Damascene conversion to patriotism and the idea that Brexit will be all right is just after the fact. It's after the party, and I
Isn't
think
it
that
also,
it's
though,
not going to work.
It's not going to work, but the other thing is that the pandemic has removed Brexit off the table because you can no longer compare us to pre or post Brexit.
Yes.
All the numbers, all the figures don't work. They'll never work. There is no way you can do any comparison at all. And therefore it has become a non-story.
Yeah.
In addition to that, we can't travel, so there are no problems at the ports and the flying in and flying out. It's all going to be messed out because we're probably going to have COVID forever, and wearing masks and having tests, and that's what slowed it. Nothing to do with Brexit. So in fact, this government has every opportunity to make incredible mileage out of having driven this through, combined with the fact that the first spat with the EU, this government, well done to them, well played. There aren't many occasions that I'll say that, but on this particular thing, on the vaccine rollout and on their handling of Ursula von der Leyen, spot on.
Or definitely, it's not just 1-0, it's 10-0.
Back to the Mail, where you have found us the most delightful story.
Well, indeed. I'm loving, by the way, being between the sheets with you. Let me tell you that when it comes to sleeping...
Oh, yes, sleeping, yeah.
People are just one of 4 particular creatures: a dolphin, a bear, a wolf, or a lion. Now, as you well know, I'm a tiger in the sack, James. But...
How do I know that? I feel slightly queasy.
Someone's protesting too much now. Here's the thing. It turns out that we've all got different types of bodies with a different circadian rhythm. For example, the wolf is late to go to bed and late to rise.
Right, you see, that's not me.
Right, take me through your sleep patterns.
Well, you see, I'm an early, I think it's a lion. So I think I do the lion, but then I'm also, at the weekends, I'm a bear.
Is that it?
Because bears sleep a lot.
Yes,
and
they do.
They like a lot of sleep, and then they sort of like, but during the week, obviously, because of the show that I present, I have to be up before the lark.
Well, you are nothing if not versatile. The worst person to be in bed with is a dolphin. That's somebody who sleeps intermittently throughout the night.
I think I have one of those. I think
we all know a dolphin.
Yeah. The other half is a dolphin, or I'm a bit fat at the moment, so they're referring to themselves as the other third,
is that
which
it?
is a bit disappointing. Oof. Yeah, that's
strong words.
Strong words. I've got something for you.
Go for it.
I don't know how to deal with this. a 1 foot banana. So this is Bendy Beast, long as a forearm. This is Sam Palmer. She went shopping. She wasn't really paying attention what she was shoving in her trolley. I mean, you would have thought that she would have noticed had she put a rather
I feel
large...
like we're in a world of euphemisms here.
Indeed. There's plenty of opportunity for that. Anyway, so she picked up a Whopper in the supermarket, apparently. This thing is a foot long. She's measured it. It's a massive, great big nana, and she said it tasted absolutely delicious when she chomped her way through it.
A very lucky lady. She's counting her blessings. She's having a good pandemic and an even better lockdown by the sounds of it.
I think she is. And I think, I mean, it is fun going to the supermarket and then finding fruit or vegetables in a 1970s style,
Yes, I know.
which are, you know, totally inappropriate.
Or is it just my imagination, or have bananas got bigger since Brexit?
I don't know. I don't eat bananas.
Tell me why.
I mean, I will eat them if I have to, but if a fruit salad has banana, I might. So I just think that they're a bit.
They're very time limited in terms of their sort of, you know,
As my
edible
mother,
window.
aka the Wendy, once said, she was referring to bananas, and she said that as a child she could never work out why they were called a fruit because they had no juice.
Wise words.
Wise words. There we go, on that bombshell, on the fact that I don't eat bananas for very good reason. Although, just as an aside, if you eat a lot of bananas, means you're doing very well between the sheets. There we go. And on that bombshell, we really must leave it. You've been watching Mark Dolan and me, James Max, on Between the Sheets. We'll be back again soon.